Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good morning, everyone. Let me acknowledge the Honorable Horace Chang. I believe he's online with us this morning, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of National Security. Honorable Robert Nesta Morgan, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. Dr. Grace McLean, our Permanent Secretary Acting. Dr. Cassan Troop, our Chief Education Officer Acting. Other support staff from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, members of the media, members of government who are watching, members, all persons across Jamaica who may be watching this morning. A pleasant good morning to you. So we'll begin with the decisions from Cabinet. There are several, and so I'm going to run through as quickly as I can. Beginning with the first one, which is the development of a national border security policy and strategy. Cabinet gave approval for the development of a national border security policy and strategy aimed at strengthening Jamaica's border and maritime domain capacities through the creation of a strategic, multi-sectoral framework to address security risks within Jamaica. The development of the National Border Security Policy and Strategy will be spearheaded by a policy steering committee that will be constituted for a period of 24 months. Moving on to the next decision, which is the development of legislation to govern the operations of communities with shared facilities and expenses which are not governed by the Registration Strata Titles Act. Cabinet gave approval for the drafting of legislation to govern properties where the proprietors own in common with each other real estate or any other facilities such as tennis courts, car park, parks, roadways, etc., and therefore have shared responsibilities for maintaining these facilities. As you know, Jamaica has a wide cross-section of residential and commercial developments that have shared property that are not covered under the Registration Strata Titles Act because they do not meet the criteria for strata lots as defined under the Act. The Act was amended to address challenges faced by proprietors of properties with common facilities and shared expenses that would have to be addressed through the legislation. Cabinet also gave approval for the issuing of drafting instructions to the Chief Parliamentary Council. Cabinet gave approval for the revision of the 2012 National Restorative Justice Policy with a view to ensure the currency and efficacy of the policy and to strengthen the legitimacy, reach, and overall effectiveness of the National Restorative Justice Program. Cabinet also gave approval to effect any consequential and/or necessary amendments to the Law Reform Miscellaneous Amendments Restorative Justice Act 2016. As you know, restorative justice is a process whereby all the parties with a stake in a particular offense come together to resolve collectively how to deal with the aftermath of the offense. In 2012, the government of Jamaica approved the mainstreaming of restorative justice in response to the increase in crime and violence in the society and as strategic mechanism to assist in the reduction of backlog cases. We'll move on to the next item. Cabinet gave approval for the Soil Fertility Mapping Project for Sustainable Agriculture in Jamaica to be included in the Public Sector Investment Program, PSIP. Cabinet also gave approval for the allocation of recurrent expenditure of US $546,825.53 in the Government of Jamaica fiscal space to finance the project over a period of 4 years. The proposed Soil Fertility Mapping Project for Sustainable Agriculture in Jamaica is a partnership between the Government of Jamaica and the Kingdom of Morocco. The project is in keeping with the commitment by both countries to strengthen the bilateral partnership and expand cooperation activities that form part of the 2016 Framework Agreement on Cooperation between the Government of Jamaica and the Government of Morocco on fertilizers and soil fertility. The main purpose of the project is to establish a database with updated information regarding the availability of fertile soil throughout the country. We will move now to the approval for the purchase of the Christiana Potato Growers property in Christiana, Manchester by the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA. Cabinet gave approval for the purchase of the Christiana Potato Growers property in Christiana, Manchester, registered at volume 1460, folio 555, by the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, for a purchase price of $75 million. The recommendation for purchase was given based on the strategic importance of the property to the farmers in the environs, especially our Irish potato farmers. We go now to the divestment of the commercial assets of the former Cocoa Industry Board. Cabinet gave approval for the direct negotiations with the Coconut Industry Board for the sale of the commercial assets of the former Cocoa Industry Board. An enterprise team will be appointed to guide the project development process for the divestment of the commercial assets. The enterprise team will consist of representatives from the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, the Attorney General's Chambers, and the Development Bank of Jamaica. Cabinet approved the establishment of an open data policy to govern the access, use, reuse, adaptation, and distribution of government data in digital form that is made available with the technical and legal characteristics necessary for it to be freely used, reused, and redistributed by anyone, anytime, and anywhere. The policy would act as a key deliverable to improve efficiency and transparency in the delivery of government services and to encourage private sector-led innovation. The policy position is premised on the results of an open data readiness assessment that was conducted by the World Bank in 2014. We move now to privatization of Greater Bernard Lodge Development Project lands, transaction structure. Cabinet gave approval for the transaction strategy and implementation phase for the privatization of Greater Bernard Lodge Development Project lands. The objective of the privatization is to attract private sector investment to build out the Greater Bernard Lodge development. Cabinet gave approval for the allocation of 1 or 2 blocks for low-income housing. Cabinet also gave approval to amend the Bank of Jamaica Act to facilitate the issuance of central bank digital currency by the Bank of Jamaica and for the bank to be the sole authority to issue central bank digital currency. Digital innovation has led to the birth of alternative payment instruments, prompting central banks across the world to embark on exploratory projects to study the potential for issuing a central bank-backed digital currency. In Jamaica, the Bank of Jamaica is driving this process. Cabinet also gave approval for the issuance of drafting instructions to the Chief Parliamentary Council. Cabinet gave approval for the project to renovate and upgrade the Clarendon Parish Court in Maypen, Clarendon, to be included in the public sector investment program, and the provision of fiscal space for $40 million to commence its implementation during the 2021-2022 financial year. The Clarendon Parish Court, having been constructed over 50 years ago, has begun to show significant signs of infrastructural degradation. Therefore, in keeping with its strategic priority to establish a second court infrastructure that supports effective operations, the Ministry of Justice seeks to undertake renovation and upgrading works at the Clarendon Parish Court in Maypen. Then we have from Cabinet the determination of exclusive zones for integrated resort developments in Jamaica. Cabinet gave approval for the change from the 3 exclusive zones for approved integrated resort development, approved via decision number 320 in January of 2020, to 5 exclusive zones as follows: Hanover and Westmoreland, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, and Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, and St. Andrew, and St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, and St. Elizabeth. The concept of integrated resort development was introduced by the Government of Jamaica in consideration of further expanding the tourism product. The luxury resort developments are required to provide a fresh and interesting alternative within the sector. In light of heightened interest from potential investors seeking to invest in Jamaica, it was recognized that more zones were needed to facilitate investors. On to the next decision, which speaks to seeking approval for the sale of 150 residential service lots en bloc at Bel Air, the Savannah Phase 2, which is in Runaway Bay, St. Anne. Cabinet approved the recommendation of the Housing Agency of Jamaica Limited for the en bloc sale of 150 residential service lots registered at Volume 1362, Folios 241, 252, and 253, called Bel Air 3, the Savannah, Subcomponent 2, Runaway Bay in St. Anne, to ZDA Construction Limited for $710 million. Cabinet also approved the establishment of 7 years of secondary education in Jamaica, thus allowing all our students to have access to learning opportunities in grades 12 and 13 or sixth form. The mainstreaming of a 7-year program of educational training and experience is expected to meet the needs of students more efficiently and effectively and respond to local and international demands vis-a-vis 21st century skills, competencies, and certification. As Jamaica seeks to become more globally competitive, it is imperative that appropriate investments are made in expanding educational access, quality, and relevance to allow our students to graduate with certification in their respective fields. Jamaica's National Risk Assessment. Cabinet gave approval for the public dissemination of the National Risk Assessment of Jamaica, which looks at Jamaica's anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism, short called AML-CFT framework. Cabinet noted that the approval and dissemination of the National Risk Assessment also serves as a key step in Jamaica's action plan that was agreed with the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF. We move now to the National Population and Sustainable Development Policy. Cabinet approved the draft National Population and Sustainable Development Policy as a green paper for public consultation and for tabling in Parliament. In 1983, Jamaica was among the first developing countries to formulate and adopt an explicit national population policy. The policy and National Program of Action on Population and Development were revised and adopted in 1995. The policy has been further revised in 2021 and maintains consistency with the International Conference on Population and Development Program of Action, the Vision 2030 Jamaica, Agenda 2030, and other relevant platforms of action. The revised policy has been developed to advance the achievements and remedy the unmet targets in the implementation of the 1995 policy. We move now to the national policy for the environmentally sound management of hazardous wastes. Cabinet approved the national policy for the environmentally sound management of hazardous wastes as a white paper for tabling in the Houses of Parliament. The national policy promotes the management of wastes which are deemed to be hazardous in character and advocates for the promulgation of several legal instruments in an effort to remedy some of the issues hindering the environmentally sound management of hazardous waste in Jamaica. Those were the Cabinet decisions. We move now to the reports. Cabinet received and approved the following annual reports and/or financial statements to be tabled in Parliament. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Kingston Free Zone Company Limited, KFZ, for the financial year 2018-2019. Annual report of the Overseas Examinations Commission, OEC, for the financial year 2019-2020. Annual report and audited financial statement of the General Legal Counsel for the 2020-2021 financial year. Annual report of the National Family Planning Board for the 2019-2020 financial year. Certified appropriation accounts of the Auditor General's Department, AGD, for the financial years 2015-2016, 2018-2019, and 2019-2020. Annual report of the National Social Protection Committee, NSPC, for the 2020-2021 financial year, or July 2020 to March of 2021. Annual report of the National Water Commission, NWC, for the financial year 2018-2019. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Agro Investment Corporation, AIC, for the year ended March 31, 2017. And finally, we move on to contracts. Cabinet approved the award of a 3-year contract to Sagicor Life Jamaica Limited for the provision of group health insurance for the Bank of Jamaica for the contract period July 1, 2021 to 30th June 2024 in the amount of $192,834,360, excluding GCT, and this is for the first year. Cabinet approved the award of contract in the amount of $547,366,211.46, inclusive of GCT, to HDB Construction Limited to construct a forensic pathology autopsy suite at 149 Orange Street in Kingston. Cabinet approved the award of contract for the supply and delivery of 100 millimeter, 150 millimeter, and 600 millimeter nominal diameter ductile iron pipes and associated attachments under the Greater Mandeville Water Supply Improvement Project, Phase 1A to 2, Kingsland Road to Greenvale Road Transmission Main Replacement in the amounts of $717,510.50 US dollars and $37,309,761.88 Jamaican by the National Water Commission, and that contract was awarded to Derek A. Gibson Limited. Cabinet also approved the award of a contract for road rehabilitation works from Retrieve to March Mount in the parish of Westmoreland in the amount of $75,391,300 by the National Works Agency, and that contract was awarded to Morris Hill Limited. Cabinet also approved the award of a contract in the amount of $588,400, excluding taxes, by the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service to Astro Systems Incorporated for the provision of the design for the data center at eGov Jamaica Limited and support for the implementation of that design. Winding down, Cabinet approved the award of a contract in the amount of $8,430,631.45, excluding GCT, and that's US dollars, by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And that contract was awarded to Cable and Wireless Jamaica Limited for the provision of computers and network equipment and technological infrastructure and support services for the development of managed network services for 105 health facilities island-wide for a period of 3 years. Cabinet approved the award of a contract in the amount of $99 million by the Jamaica Social Investment Fund to Astrom Building Systems Limited to execute the Grange Hill Primary School Expansion and Rehabilitation Project, and this is Grange Hill Primary School in Westmoreland. Cabinet approved the award of a 2-year contract by the Human Employment and Resource Training National Service Training Agency, HART NSTA Trust, to Sagicor Life Jamaica Limited for the provision of group health insurance services for the contract period September 1, 2021 to August 31st, 2023, with the first year cost in the amount of $405,936,811.80, inclusive of GCT. Cabinet also approved the award of a 2-year contract by the National Housing Trust to Guardian Life Jamaica Limited for the provision of group health insurance services for the contract period September 1, 2021 to August 31st, 2023, with the first year cost in the amount of $214,851,732, excluding GCT. And that brings us to the end of Cabinet decisions, reports, and contracts. Let me take this opportunity just to update on the education sector. So in the last academic year, our grades 4 and 5 students were not able to take the regularly scheduled grade 4 and 5 PEP exams, and we had indicated that those exams would be held this Christmas term. Given the further disruption of the education sector as a result of the pandemic, those exams, which are the grades 4 and 5 PEP that were scheduled for this Christmas term, are canceled. We will now focus on the plans for the normal sitting of the 2022 PEP assessments, and we would have communicated this already to our school administrators, who we know are communicating further with our students, but we take this very public opportunity to let all Jamaicans know. It must be noted that the alternative plans are also in place if the dates set for the assessment are disrupted by the pandemic, as they were in the last academic year. And so we want to say to parents, the registration for PEP 6 has commenced using our PEP online registration system. This closes on October 8th, 2021. The assessments for this school year are scheduled accordingly, so February 22 of 2022, you'll have the primary exit profile ability test for grade 6. On March 23rd, 2022, you'll have the language arts performance task, also for grade 6, and then on March 24, 2022, you'll have the mathematics component. April 27, 2022, we'll have the PEP curriculum-based tests, also for grade 6, and those dates are April 27, 2022 and April 28, 2022. And then for our grade 4 performance task, those are currently planned for June 29, 2022 and June 30th, 2022. And then for our grade 5 students performance task, the dates there are June 8th and 9, 2022. All right, and I'll stop there, Naomi, and wait for questions.
Thank you so much, Minister. Very comprehensive, indeed, information coming out of the Cabinet deliberations. Many persons do not know that Cabinet on a Monday will start at 9 o'clock in the morning, and even at midnight, the Cabinet ministers are still at it. Ahead of our question and answer session from the media, may I invite those on our Zoom platform to, once prompted, and I believe our IT specialist has already, but for those who wish to ask questions, may I remind you that you must first, when prompted, select the Beyond the Panelist or Become a Panelist link, and then you will be able to see and hear you asking questions as well. So for those, and I see lots of persons on our Zoom platform from several media entities, if you could just switch over to be a panelist so that we'll be able to entertain your questions, that would be very, very good. May I offer a word of apology for other Cabinet ministers not joining us this morning at 9:30, exactly 9:30 this morning, which is about now. The Legislation Committee of Cabinet will begin some deliberations, and I believe some of the ministers who are scheduled to join us this morning will be part of that committee meeting, which includes Minister Williams, so she will also have to leave to go there as well. May I invite members of the media who need to ask questions, please just use the raise hand feature so I'm able to see you. I have my device here, so I'm able to see those who have questions. So just use the raise hand. I see a lot of you coming on as panelists now. Wonderful. So just use the raise hand feature, and we'll be able to have your questions answered. So thank you once again, Minister. So what I will do is I will ask questions from in the audience. I will acknowledge those who need to ask questions, and I'll ask the Minister to just stay here so she can respond to the questions. May I then first acknowledge Mr. Prince Moore of the RJR Group, who has our first question this morning. Good morning, Prince. Thank you for joining us, and please pose your questions to Minister.
Good morning. Are you hearing me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. Minister, the opposition spokesman on education is claiming that a number of teachers who were employed for the ministry's summer school program have not been paid. Can you give us some information on this, if this is so, and how many teachers have not been paid and when they will be paid?
All right, thank you, Mr. Moore. I will ask our permanent secretary to help me out here, but I have been watching the news and listening as well, and I know that we've made significant efforts at the ministry to ensure that payments are made. I can't stand here and say every single payment has been made, but I know that where there are outstanding payments, efforts are made to ensure that we have the correct data and that those payments will be made. But I'll ask the PS to just add if you have information in terms of the number of persons that may be impacted.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, all. Just to say, Prince, that we engaged approximately 3,500 teachers on the face-to-face summer school program. So far, we have processed and paid over 2,000 of these teachers. The other about 950 or thereabout we are currently processing. Just to advise that based on the quality of the information that we have been receiving, especially for those teachers who are not employed in the government system or who worked at a school that teacher is not employed, we had to do some detailed analysis to make sure that nobody is double paid. And earlier this week, last week, we took the decision to allow our bursa-paid institutions to pay those teachers from those bursa-paid schools. So that process is being done as we speak, and we are committed to ensuring that all our teachers will be paid by at least the mid-November, which is not mid-November, mid-October, which is next week, Friday. We take full responsibility at the ministry for the delay in the payments. Of course, you know, we have to make sure that we have accurate information. Our teachers' TRN must be accurate, the banking information must be accurate, and the team at Central has spent quite a bit of time just calling our teachers to ensure that we have the accurate information, because as we try to input on the system rejects if they are not correct. And so we believe we have sorted out all the kinks, and we are committed to ensuring that by about the 15th of October, we would have completed the payment. I would also say, Minister, if there are teachers who have not been paid or you have not received any funds by next week, we ask you to get in touch with your regional offices. It could be that the bank account that you submitted is not the bank account that you are checking for the payment, or it could be that the bank has rejected the payment, and so it takes a little while for us to get the report to indicate those that would have been rejected. So we are committed to ensuring that we have all our teachers paid. We thank you for volunteering. We thank you for the excellent service that you provided during the summer, and we know with these teething pains being sorted out, we will not have this challenge as we move into our national extra lesson and homework program in November and onwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, P.S. McLean, especially reassuring as we move forward. May I then now acknowledge Ms. Tanisha Mundell, who has a question. Tanisha, could you remind us of the media entity you represent and pose your question to Minister?
Good morning. I'm from the Gleaner Company.
Thank you, Tanisha. Go ahead.
I have two-part questions. The first one is in relation to Minister Vaz. I want to know if the government harbors any concern that one of its high-profile ministers has had his personal U.S. visa flagged with a substance trafficking designation, and if there are consequences, real and perceived, that might flow from the negative publicity, especially from international partners.
So Minister Vaz has been in the public domain answering questions with regards to his visa situation. I've heard him several times myself, and so today I really do not have anything new to add to what Minister Vaz would have said.
Ms. Mundell, you have another question you'd indicated.
Okay, the other one is in relation to the Nutrition Products Limited company. Minister, do you and the government have the confidence of the current board of the company? And also, has Mr. Gizine resigned from all the other state boards for which he held dictatorship?
So the current board of the Nutrition Products Limited company is a relatively new board with some carryover members from the last board. As you know, the Auditor General's report was tabled in Parliament. It has been sent to the company, to the Board of Directors for consideration and response, any further response that they can give to it. And so we will have to allow that process to take its place, and then in that report as well, the Auditor General had pointed to the fact that there was a cabinet decision with regards to the direction of the entity. So there are many things to be worked out, and so we will just allow the process to take place.
Thank you so much, Minister. Ahead of or going, and I do know that you have a legislation committee meeting which has begun as well. So we will give another few minutes to questions. I'm not seeing many hands at this point. Let's go to Maisha Brody, I believe the name is, and then I acknowledge Ms. Mundell after, who has another question. So Ms. Brody, if you could again remind us of your media entity and ask your question of Minister. Maisha, could you unmute, please? And go ahead with your question. We're not hearing you at all. All right, let's go back to Ms. Mundell and then see if Maisha will sort out the audio issues she has. Ms. Mundell, your question?
Yes. Minister, you didn't answer my question as to whether Mr. Gizine has resigned from all other state boards.
The answer to that, I'd really have to find out for you for the next time. You know, what I do know relates to the board of NPL at this moment.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mundell. Again, Ms. Brody, your hand is up. I acknowledge you. Let's see if we can get your question in. Unmute and go ahead, please. So Ms. Brody is from IRA FM, and I see where she has unmuted, but we're not getting any audio from her at all. Let's try one more time. If not, Ms. Brody, may I invite you to just type your questions, and I am sure that representatives here will be able to give you some factual information that will help guide your news day as well. All right. So we can wrap up now. It's 9:40. I see a final question, so let me acknowledge then Ms. Mundell once again, who has her hand up, and after which we will wrap. And Minister, we thank you. Ms. Mundell, a final question?
I wanted the minister to answer whether or not the board has our confidence, given that some of the members are carryover members. And also if the government would support an investigation of the nutrition products submitted by the Integrity Commission.
This is
all right. Yeah. So again, the report from the Auditor General was laid in Parliament. There's a process required where the board of the current board of the entity has to look at that report, respond with any questions, queries that they might have as well about what's written in that report. We have to allow that process to take place. This board came into being in January of 2020, or there about December, January of 2020, before the Auditor General's report was laid. And so we have to allow them to respond to the Auditor General's report before any decisions can be made.
all right. Thank you, Minister.
All right. I want to, yes. Naomi, there were some questions at the last post-cabinet press briefing that I promised to get answers to. While I do not have the answers to all the questions that were posed then, I do have some. There was a question asked about the payout of the $10,000 vaccine incentive, and we've asked of the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, and they have indicated to us that 41,000 applications were received, 35,000 were validated, funds have been transferred to the respective remittance companies for 30,000 persons, 5,000 are being processed to be sent off today, and the remaining 6,000 are being validated. There was also a question with regards to the ownership of Petrojam. Petrojam is fully owned by the government of Jamaica, and we would have gotten that information from the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. Additionally, there was a question about the escrow amount. The Ministry of Finance and the Public Service wishes to advise that the escrow amount has not been released, and I'm sure you would appreciate the very sensitive nature of that situation with regards to the government of Jamaica and the government of Venezuela. And those were a couple of the carryover questions.
Minister, Maisha Brody has indicated via her text in WhatsApp, in Zoom, I beg your pardon, and in an effort to ensure that, given that we had acknowledged her, she has pointed out that her microphone is not working, but she had a quick question concerning vaccines. When would Pfizer vaccines be available, that batch, and are they actually currently in the country, given that she understands that there's a counselor in the Thompson Town division who's been advertising that Pfizer vaccines for second doses are here.
Okay. So the only information with regards to the Pfizer vaccines that we should listen to is the information from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And they would have indicated their knowledge of when they expect the Pfizer vaccines to be here. Any other information about Pfizer vaccines should be disregarded. One source, Ministry of Health and Wellness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. Thank you so much to members of the media and, of course, our officials from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information who joined us this morning for our post-cabinet media briefing. Thank you, everyone, and please do have a productive and safe day. Good morning.